Now, Merck China has been a very important player in terms of life science, healthcare, and electronics. What has the China market meant for Merck China, and what will the China market mean for Merck China going forward? Here's my conversation with Marc Horn, President of Merck China. President Horn, welcome back to CDF. Now that you're regular, your company has been very well represented at this forum. What are your main takeaways from the policy makers and leaders regarding China's economic outlook and also the new policy signals that are relevant to your company?
No, thanks for having me. And yes, I mean, it's always a pleasure and really a privilege to be back to CDF. Why is that? Because you get first-hand insights from the two sessions. Really, you can talk to people about how to really interpret the domestic policy going forward. Secondly, I think it's very important that we foster that dialogue in terms of collaboration together, because here you get really together global business leader, people, scholars, you get to the government coming together. So this really instilled a great confidence in me. And if you ask me what the main takeaways are, I think first of all, very reassuring, there is a certain stability and predictability actually in the policies. We see that we are further doubling down on innovation in terms of the new quality productive forces. So really going along those high quality transformation of China, becoming more green, more healthier, more digital. But at the same token, we see now a more emphasis also on consumption demand increase. And I think that's good in terms of well-being for the whole society. That is a very important signal as well. And last but not least, very importantly for us, continuation of opening up. So really re-emphasizing the importance of foreign investment, foreign companies being here, becoming part of the local ecosystem.
Because one important theme of this CDF is about injecting stability to a world that is marked by disruptions, technological-wise, and also from policymakers in some corners of the world, the challenges to supply chains, geopolitical rivalry, so on and so forth. Under that light, how would you evaluate the role of China, being a driver of the global economy, and now that trying to play a role in terms of giving more stability of the world economy?
Well, China is clearly the second largest market of the world, right, and still continue rising. And it's more and more nowadays also a source of innovation. Really a lot of new technologies are coming out of China. When you think also about new business models, it's fascinating to see how China is developing their own ecosystem in terms of taking an idea, scaling it in a new way. And I think, for example, taking the DeepSeek moment, I would say is symptomatic of what's happening in some parts of the ecosystem like AI. And so for me, China can play really a role in stabilizing so the global growth we have currently, but especially with the 5% growth, GDP growth they are projecting, it opens up the opportunity for further investments into the country. But it's not only anymore China for China, it's getting more and more China for global. And I think that's the role which China, when it comes to new business models, new services, new solutions to common problems, can really play a major role.
You talk about DeepSeek. China has been trying very hard to transform its economic growth model. Going from double-digit growth of 12%, if you think about the 2000s and 2010s, down to 5-6%. And there's been some questions from the Western world about why that is the case, and if the Chinese economy can keep going as it has been. What do you think about that regarding China's economic transformation that is taking place? Because you've been in China experiencing all these firsthand.
Yes, first time I was here in 2001, now it's my third time in China, so on and off 12 years. And I've seen many transformations in China, always very long-term, strategically long-term thinking. So yes, I mean, China is moving into a very mature, sophisticated market. Even though when we look at growth rates of 5% incrementally, this is in absolute terms a very significant contribution every year in terms of GDP, which is very important. And from that angle, now looking at the transformation we are currently seeing, really bringing to emphasizing data digital, emphasizing new materials, really playing a role in green economy and healthcare and life science. for us, we feel very comfortable with that, very confident in the long term here for China, because we, with our products, are really, I think, a good match, and we can really contribute to it in terms of being healthier, safer, and more digital. Yeah.
You're watching breaking news on CGTN.
You're watching CGTN with the latest market-moving headlines from around the world.
Welcome to the world today on CGTN.
What is Merck China doing right now to leverage, to capitalize on China's innovation ecosystem? Because Merck China has been recognized as a leader when it comes to life science, when it comes to healthcare, and of course, much less talked about the electronics business as well.
No, we have our global R&D network sitting also here in China. So, for example, in healthcare in Beijing, we have life science here in Shanghai. We have also various parts of the technical services for electronics sitting in Shanghai. Where we really try to do now at the moment is creating a local ecosystem, really creating local partnership models where we can really tap into the local ecosystem. So, I'll give you an example. In sustainability, we're currently looking at how we can source green energy, how we can, with local partners, how we can manage battery and energy better. We're looking at areas of drug discovery, where we have now really with local partners license in local pharmaceutical products, not only for China, but also later for global. So what we really try to do is to let China become part of our integrated ecosystem as a company. And we really bring our global expertise, but we're learning a lot from the Chinese ecosystem as well in creating new solutions.
Can you talk to us about what are the things, experiences that you've learned, that you said, in China, that you hope to promote to the other parts of the world, and exporting to other parts of the world, that is a business model or a product or an experience that is practiced and that is becoming viable in China, that is meaningful to the rest of the world?
One is clearly the way you in China address innovation. So for me, really the fast speed of scaling, the very rigorous customer experience focus which is taken at that point in time, and very quickly creating huge new networks, partnership models which haven't existed. So really creating new business models is something which is very unique to China in terms of scaling. Now, what I do see at the moment also happening is that China has a lot of thought leadership in new emerging technologies in the space of biopharma, life science, data digital. And so in that combination, bringing new ideas, which I would call invention, and scaling them to industrial scale, which is then innovation, is something which is really unique to China.
Okay, Marc, Merck China has been in China for almost 100 years, believe it or not. What has the China market meant to Merck China, and what do you think it will mean going forward?
No, we've been indeed, as you said, since 1933. We started in the Peace Hotel in Shanghai, actually, and with a pharma shop. Now, for us, China is the second largest market in the world, and continue to be a strategic market for us. And it's really a source of innovation. And when we come to the customers here, we really want to bring our global products to China. When you think about elderly care, when you think about chronic disease management, in that space. We are also looking really at novel modalities, so really new ways of helping in the precision medicine. So China is now getting stronger and stronger in terms of new molecules, new pipeline, not only for China, but drugs for the world, which we really tap into. When you look at consumer, take for example electronics, we are a market leader in materials you need to do in the display. So when you think about as a consumer, you look at your smartphone, you look at your laptop, you're looking at cars which become more and more electronified. You have really software. It's a running software machine nowadays. So here in all this space, we're really learning a lot from the Chinese customers in terms of their expectation when it comes to combining data digital with customer experience. And that's something which is for us very meaningful. Another area which we feel where China can help us a lot is really this also more and more concern for green economy. So we really see that people care about their society, they care about having a sustainable economic growth. And we see a lot of companies now working on how to reduce CO2 emissions, really helping with a pathway going forward by 2060 to be climate neutral in China. And that's an area where we can bring also our objectives, because we want to be climate neutral by 2040. But we need China help to do this, because a big portion of our supply chain sits in China. So we need to work together here to make that happen.
Each day, there are millions of stories. Each one can open new perspectives, new possibilities. Wherever you look, we are there to see, discover, explore. We put the pieces together to find what really matters to you, all around the world, all around the clock. Our reporters are at home across the globe. From our headquarters in Beijing and production centers in Washington, Nairobi, and London, China Global Television Network. Stories from across the globe, reaching people across the globe. CGTN. See the difference.
Can you talk to us about what are the new and exciting R&D products in the pipeline, given China's demographic and medical needs that are ever evolving?
We are very much focusing on chronic disease management, so we're looking diabetes, cardio, but also thyroids and oncology. So we bring a lot of new pipeline from oncology to China, but we're also developing here locally with partners like Abisco and Hengrui. We have been developing in that space products here for China together. Beyond that, when you think about life science and taking AI again, what is more and more important is that you do really precision medicine. So really customized medicine by person. You're really diagnosing now with the help of AI what is your problem, so that you really get a customized treatment. In that space, for example, also to develop new solutions to your problem, you use AI. So we have programs where we call them Edison, we call them Cynthia, where you can very quickly go through millions of potential molecules and decide then, with AI help, which one would be the right pathway to go.
Precision medicine,
Yeah,
that
so
sounds
it's
so promising, and
yes, that's an
avoiding
area-
all the side effects potentially.
Yes, exactly. So it's really finding the best pathway, and not only in terms of R&D development, but ultimately we believe we will have a very customized individual treatment need, not only in China but globally. The other area we see where we can support is really elderly care. Right, you have in China, from a demographics point of view now, in 2035, 400 million people, what the government calls the silver economy, where we can also support, right? Each of them will need customized treatment, care, at home most likely, and think about combining that with robotics, humanoid robotics, think about sensor where you use data and digital to really do a customized treatment. So these are areas we're working on.
So I'm 40 years old. In 30 years, is it a sure bet that the person or the thing that's taking care of me and my wife would be a robot instead of a real person, supported or partially supported, helping research by companies such as yours?
It's a good question. I do think it will be a combination of both. What I can say at the moment is that China is having really a great ecosystem to support this pathway going forward, because you have in China quite, as we already discussed, AI capabilities. You see mass robotics coming online now. You think about automation. So this is an area where I think China can, with its unique skill sets, but also a very unique problem they have, to actually contribute, yes.
You know, back a few years ago, a very famous scholar and historian from Israel, of course by the name of Yuval Noah Harari, wrote a book called 24 Lessons for 21st Century. You know, 5-6 years back, he predicted that AI will change biotech for good in ways that is unprecedented. How exactly do you feel the AI is changing the industry of life science and biotech, and how exactly so?
Very exciting book, very insightful book. I read it as well. I think the point here is also that can you use it for good, right? And there are two things which are relevant. One is we as Merck stand for ethical behavior. You really need to look at from an ethical point of view that this AI, robotics, is used by humans as a help. We are still in charge of what it is. And with that in mind, AI will have a lot of impact because, as we just said, you can much faster with AI go through potential molecules to define the best new pathways. You can think about smart manufacturing where you say, okay, I become much more operational, efficient in cost savings when I produce a product because I have a lot of data. I can look at energy management we just discussed when it comes to climate change, where I can say, okay, how is my facility running? Where is my big energy leakages? How can I actually manage that? That's an area. You can talk much more to the consumer. I mean, China is already very digital when it comes to go to market, right? If you think about e-commerce, WeChat, really grasping the sentiment and to see where the feeling is of the customer, what his need is, and starting to have that conversation together, both with AI, but also with the human behind it, I think are really huge potentials in terms of impact.
Yeah, I know it's hard to give precise predictions or forecasts, but many people are wondering, with the help of AI and their help into the research of new medicines and new treatments, will we, the current generation, be able to live substantially longer? We're talking about the average age, life expectancy in China in its early 80s, but maybe 20 or even 25 years longer in the foreseeable future.
That's a great question where I would not have an answer at the moment. The only thing I can say is when you look at the continuous improvement already with the life expectancy also in China, where does it come from? It comes from really taking care of the people, providing the best services and quality of products, and really doing it more and more customized. And I believe if we follow that pathway and really finding customized solution for each of us individually, there's a fair chance that we will prolong.
Would you consider working with the likes of DeepSeek, incorporating that into your ecosystem?
Well, DeepSeek for us is one representation of the AI ecosystem here. So what we currently do internally is you need to upskill also our workforce to really understand and how to use it. Coming back not only to understanding the power and leveraging power, but also understanding the risks of it, so from an ethical point of view. So we have our own ChatGPT system internally, where we're using ChatGPT, where we're using DeepSeek, we're using Claude. So what we try to do is really leverage the global offerings, and part of it is China offerings, yes.
Being a company that is deeply connected with Europe, China-Europe relations are under focus right now with the disruptions that is interpreted by many as a positive sign for China-Europe relations going forward. As a company that is deeply engaged with the Chinese market, what kind of a China policy is more viable or advisable for European policymakers at this point? Because there has been some tariffs, skepticism, even hostility coming from the Brussels.
Yeah, no, very good question. I think we are celebrating this year 50 years anniversary of the Chinese-European relationship. We stand for 1/3 of the world economy. So there are still a lot of areas of collaboration possible. And I think those we just discussed are particularly when you think about sustainability, climate change, how we develop new technologies, business solutions here, we can work together. I think in the space of data, digital, AI, bringing together the ecosystem here, the speed of things and creativity of China with some of the frameworks we see currently in Europe to address some of the concerns when it comes to ethical and safety and data protection. There's a lot of complementary areas where we can work together. My expectation is that we will continue working together on these key worldwide topics. Are we in many areas competitors? Absolutely. Do I believe in competition? Yes, as long as it's not a vicious, but a fair and equitable competition.
Sure, you're saying you're not a big fan of protectionism coming from either side, or politicization, or even putting an ideological spin on things that should be handled by the corporate world.
We as a company, we are truly believing in globalization. So as long as there is equitable, fair market access, where we then compete on a level playing field, that is fine.
Marc, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much for having me.
And that will do it for this edition of The Hub on CGTN. I'm Wang Guan at the Diaoyutai State Guest House in Beijing. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'll see you again soon.